Howdy bubs and welcome back. Today we're going to be jumping into GameMaker and I'm going to introduce a new concept, scripts. This will be a way that we can help clean up our code and make it easier to introduce these next couple of features that I'll be covering in this video and the next few. Today, with our scripts, we're going to learn how to create a safe spawner so that way our enemies are far less likely to spawn inside of the walls. In addition to that, we will also look at adding a player special attack mechanic such as this. So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and jump into our code. Starting off, I've created a script here. So you can do this by right-clicking on the scripts folder, create script. It'll prompt you to name it something. The script files can actually hold multiple functions. The functions are what we're going to create inside of these scripts. Having convenient access to organizing them based off of what they're supposed to be managing will simplify things once we get to more complicated projects, or if you want to add additional functions to help clean up your code. Right now, I've created a script called script_spawner, and inside of this I have a function called safe_spawner. Safe spawner helps address making sure that we spawn in a location that does not already have an object in its way. In this case, the object we're looking against is the obstacle. So here we have our X and Y values randomly generated as we had before. And then inside of a with statement, I'm going to create a new enemy randomly located based off of this on the enemy's layer, and it's going to be an enemy object. This enemy object is whatever the function gets passed in. This is just a parameter for the function. So you can pass in as an argument the enemy or the enemy boss, or if you have any other types of enemy objects, you could just specify that whenever you call the function. So whatever the enemy object is, it gets created, and in the with statement it's kept track of. Inside of here, then we have a new function, placeMeeting. What placeMeeting does is, based off of whatever code is calling it, or whatever object is calling this code, in this case, the enemy object we just created, it's going to check, okay, based off of its current location, which is X ran and Y ran, does this collide with an obstacle? While this is true, while we still are colliding, we're going to update X and Y to be other random locations within the room. Eventually, it'll get to a position where it is no longer colliding with an obstacle. It then exits the while loop, it exits and ends the with statement, and then that is the end of the function. This will make sure that our enemy just keeps getting moved around until it finally finds a spot where there is no obstacle in the way. And that is how our script spawner is written inside having the function safe_spawner. I'm going to show how to actually use it and replace our existing code and any other code you may have had structured similarly. So note our function is called safe_spawner. Down below in our spawner object, whatever you have yours called, mine is called wave progressive. Inside of this section, this is where we previously had specified that we're going to randomly generate a position and then throw in an enemy object there. Here I'm going to call my new function safe_spawner, and I'm just going to create an enemy object. This does what those three lines previously did. Similarly, I can place that and safe_spawner and safely spawn an enemy boss. Our code now is much simpler to read here. It safely spawns this object, an enemy, or it safely spawns a boss. That is the beauty of functions. Try to organize them nicely inside of the scripts. By default, it'll try to name the first function the same thing as the script name. You don't have to do that. Scripts can have multiple functions inside of them. Just for right now, this is the only function I have. But whenever we get to our more complicated programs in the next projects, you will have scripts that have multiple functions written inside. This ensures we have our enemies spawn safely. But this is only one part. On to our next script. In my script for the player, I have my first function is player ultimate. This is going to be the player's special power attack. In here, similar to how we had written for the enemy boss to be able to do kind of a ring attack, I'm doing a limited version where instead it is only a 30-degree range from -15 to +15. What this says is the angle is equal to wherever the player is currently facing, 15 degrees to the left, up to wherever the player is currently facing, 15 degrees to the right. And rather than going plus plus for the angle, I'm going 1 degree at a time. I'm going 3 degrees at a time. So that way we have fewer projectiles being launched. It's not that overpowered. I put a delay for, we'll see it in a bit, only 5 seconds. So the player can regularly use this, but it's not too crazy powerful. So then the rest of the code is similar to what we had before. Instance create layer, projectiles at this X and Y position, and we're going to create a projectile. And with that projectile, the speed is keeping track of whatever the player's projectile speed is supposed to be, and then I just multiplied it by 2 to make it go slightly faster. Again, you can do whatever you want for the speed value. The direction is whatever our angle is based off of the for loop, and our image angle is the direction, so it's facing the correct way. And then I just play the normal projectile firing sound once. I pulled it outside of the for loop, so this does not do the same sound effect that the boss ultimate ability or the boss attack does. Because in that case, the boss attack was inside of the for loop, so it had that weird sound effect. This is outside of the for loop, so it's no longer an issue. And now that we have that function written, down in our player in the step event, just down below I wrote, this is a section for the power attack. If I press the R key and power attack is active, power attack is a new variable that we're keeping track of. In the create event, power attack is set to true. From the beginning of the game, you can perform a power attack. In the step event, if I press R and I'm allowed to do a power attack, then I set power attack to false. I set my alarm to be for 300 steps, and then I perform the player ultimate function, which we have right here. In my alarm 1, after 300 steps have passed and alarm 1 is down to 0, power attack is set to true. We're now allowed to perform our power attack. Now with that in mind, I can go ahead and run this, and we can see the player is now able to move around just fine, and I can press R. I have my power attack, and we saw this goes clearly faster than the other one. I can mash R. It doesn't work until enough steps have passed, and I'm allowed to perform the power attack. And there we go. That is how we can create a power attack, implement a safe spawner, and just add a little bit more fun to our game. Go ahead and take these skills, expand out the game to the best of your abilities. If you have any questions or need any assistance in class, just let me know. Everyone, have a good one. I just wanted to say thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Shout out to my bad bubs, my top 5, my day ones. Y'all have always been there for me. Next up, my baby bubs, the next 5. I always love y'all's support. And finally, for everyone else, any little bit helps. Thank you to all my basic bubs for supporting me along my journey. If you want to continue receiving notifications, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell button.